Ladies and gents and everything in between, it's time for an alternative paper review. First up this morning, it's time for everyone's favourite second jobbing, job hopping, job sharing and hugely unqualified Defence Secretary Grant Shapps. Indeed, taking a break from running get-rich-quick schemes off the books under an alias while an MP. Here he is on the front pages of The Telegraph and Express to warn readers of the dangers of woke. Hey, everything is woke! Everything is woke. Wait, what? What is woke again? What does woke mean? That's a really woke question, Aid. Yes, apparently the army is woke now. And if you're not keeping tabs, it started off as blue-haired social justice warriors and a blog or two in The Guardian. But now somehow it also includes the corridors of top university, the BBC, judges, the civil service, banks, big tech and the king. And Shapps' issue seems to be that he thinks the army isn't running its business properly. Presumably he thinks they could optimise the defence budget if they just rolled out a few pyramid schemes. Which sort of leads us to that great Tory philosophical paradox. If everything and everywhere is woke, but we can't define what woke is, how could one ever hope to remove it? Whoa! Anyway, I suppose if you do struggle to bring in the right number of soldiers, if there are challenges with bringing in people from different ethnic backgrounds, don't worry, Grant, because I have figured it out. There's two possible solutions here. Number one, you take every soldier that's already in the British Army and you give them 2 aliases, and then you've tripled numbers. Or I don't know if you've already thought this, but you could consider the draft.
Good morning, my neighbours!
Well, good morning, you sexy little Mother Hubbards. It's time for an alternative paper review. First up, from left to right, it's an unquenchable, full-throated and frenetic feast on Keir Starmer's Labour Party, as everyone from The Guardian and The Eye to The Telegraph and The Times all tried to turn the ill-advised comments of one aspiring Labour candidate into the wholesale resurgence of its anti-Semitism scandal. And for those of you just joining this season of the formerly Great Britain Midway, this is a story about former Labour candidate Ashar Ali and his private but leaked suggestion that Israel may have allowed the October attacks to happen so it could be used as a pretext for the later ground and missile assault on Gaza. But now, just like they did with beer and Currygate, Fleet Street hacks are doing that thing where they try to deepen the row. So before, it was Ashar Ali and pushing him for an apology, then asking Keir Starmer why he won't sack a guy who doesn't actually technically work for him yet. Now the row has to deepen. Now it's, well, who was with him at the meeting? Who are the co-conspirators here? Has anyone else in Labour recently criticised Israel? I bet they have. I bet they hate this Gaza genocide business. What is up, you sexy Mother Hubbards? Today, the UK slid back into recession. You might have seen that. Headlines everywhere. But some of the reporting on it is really interesting. It's like a case study in UK media bias. So what have we got? We've got borrowing costs were just inexplicably higher. We've got manufacturing and GDP was just lower than expectations for some weird reason. We've got the, it's not really a recession. It's just we're gently dipping our toe into the recession. It's not really, you won't even notice it. Now just put a pin in that for a second and just consider, right, if this was a Labour government, if a Labour Chancellor and Prime Minister had stewarded the British economy into recession against their own pledge, right? It's bad enough when you actually, you put it into recession, but when you've specifically stood outside the steps of Number 10 and you've gone like, I'm going to make one of my pledges, one of my 5 pledges. We won't talk about the other ones in this video. It's one of my 5 pledges that I will get us back to growth. When it's your pledge and you're into recession. Oh my God, if that was a Labour Prime Minister, what would the media be doing right now? There'd be talk of same old Labour. They'd be saying, oh, you can't trust Labour with the economy. I've been telling you, how many years have I been telling you? You can't trust Labour with the economy. No, I think it's just a mild one, though, this one. No, it's not. It's that Labour are irresponsible with the chancellery, treasury stuff. You can't trust Labour. And this is what we mean on the left when we say that Labour are held to a higher standard. They have to keep their sheets whiter than white. Because when we talk about, rowing back on a pledge, right, on the 28 billion green stuff, which they've actually said, to be fair, they're like, we're not completely abandoning it. We can't put 28 billion up there as the figure anymore. It's basically the thing. When they do that, the press maul them. He's abandoned. Like, what does he stand for? How many things have the Tories had to abandon or claimed that they were going to do and then later failed to deliver spectacularly? But Labour are seen, you can't trust them. Can't trust Labour. So there's the 28 billion stuff. There's these instances of anti-Semitism this last week. Everyone's like, they've got an anti-Semitism problem. They've got a racism problem in the Labour Party. He hasn't changed anything. He says he's changed the party. He hasn't changed shit. There's all of that stuff. What have the Tories done to combat racism in the last 13 years? Can you think of one way that they've actively made moves, put in place measures to address racism? Anything? So Labour are always held to a higher standard than the Tories. So it's not surprising, but it's never not enraging, Like a day like today, it makes me just go like, do you know what? Burn down Fleet Street and shit in the ash. I saw a news story bubble up. It said that the government are asking influencers, or going to ask influencers, to make appeal videos to refugees, asking them not to come to the UK in small boats. This is the great new CCHQ or Home Office strategy. I think this is genius. This is a great idea. Is it cheaper? Maybe it is cheaper to pay Joey Essex to do a £15,000 Instagram live or TikTok than to wait for them to come here and then pay a British driver to drive around in a go-home van. It could be cost-effective. Maybe we should hear them out. I don't know. Do they honestly think that Afghan refugees are checking in on influencers? Is that what they think is happening as they set off from a French beach? Is that what they think Syrian and Afghan asylum seekers are all about? Is that what they think the market is? It's like men of working age. That's the cliche, isn't it? That the Express, that Nigel Farage, that the Daily Mail always wheel out endlessly. It's always like, how come there's so many young men of working age? There's never any women and children, is there? It's always men, so they must be economic migrants. Right. Think about that demographic for a second. Do they really think that young men of working age are all about influence? They're just about to set off in the boat. And then one of them is just like, wait up a second, Mohammed, Ahmed, just wait. I have to check in and see what Molly May had on her salad this afternoon. I just have a small following. But if you'll have me, UK Home Office, I will personally volunteer to do this. I will do this for free. I will. You wanted a freer country, did you? You wanted liberated rights, did you? Well, we're about to sack off the ECHR, apparently. You wanted a vaguely healthy or untroubled by cholera existence. Well, we have got a fleet of floating turds in every lake and river from here to the coast. We've got measles, scurvy, cholera, TB. And they'll be watching this on an Instagram reel. Right? About to get on the boat. Just like it's a fucking horror movie. I don't know about this. And then I got to bring it in close, right? For that last, final bit, the really earnest. And I'll just be like I'm talking to the one-to-one. I'll be like, listen, trust me, fella. I used to be against the Rwanda policy. But now I'm tempted to dob myself in as one of you lot. So I get sent off there. First up to the Sun, Yankee Harry. Prince talks of becoming US citizen. Royalist right-wing papers like the Sun, the Mail, the Express, they all have this weird place that they occupy, don't they? Where they're constantly badgering, pillorying, mocking Harry and Meghan. They're like, well, we should take away their titles. Oh, we should banish them, strip them of their citizenship. And then when it transpires that the two of them were actually considering just voluntarily, giving up their titles and becoming American citizens, then the same great minds of the right-wing press are like, well, no, hang on a second. How dare they do that? That would be disrespectful. We're like, You always talk about taking their titles away from them. They're thinking about relinquishing them, and now you're upset about it? Look, yeah. Because I want it to be my decision. And I want them to be sad about it. And from right-wing royalists to left-wing royalists. Harry, I love my family. I read that and I'm like, Let me read that again. Harry, I love my family. I mean, I don't know how your Christmas was, but that headline does nothing to dispel the idea that the royals are nothing like us. Also in the left-wing sphere, The Eye and The Guardian both cover the probable murder of Alexei Navalny by the Kremlin, by Vladimir Putin. Now, I don't want to spend too long talking about this because I already kind of covered it on last night's podcast. But I will just say this. It is interesting seeing right-wing authoritarians in the UK use this story as an opportunity to bash Vladimir Putin's Russia. You know, they're like, oh, he's ruthless. Oh, he's an authoritarian dictator. And then I pan out. And I look at some of the policies people like Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, Boris Johnson have rolled out or attempted to roll out over the last 5 or 6 years. Oh, he's a ruthless authoritarian and the world needs to take action. Against his vote rigging, crushing of protest, crushing of dissent. Like, I don't suppose anyone in CCHQ wants to hear this today or this weekend, but you lot are only a few steps behind Vladimir Putin. Remember when this lot were cheering on the coronation? And then you had the anti-monarchy demonstrators over here? And then they were just, bundled into a police van and thrown into a jail cell. And then later released without charge, because there was nothing criminal taking place. They just didn't like the protesting. Same thing at Conservative Party conference a few months back, when people were protesting austerity, saying it had killed tens of thousands of Brits. They had their signs confiscated, moved on. They were like, this isn't Russia. Like, we're allowed to protest here. What are you doing? And this lot are like, we have to fight authoritarians. And I'm like, yeah, we do.